It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
So this next story is Bill Ackman, who he's an activist investor, which is someone who takes these massive short positions. And short means they are betting on a stock going to zero. Now, a couple of years ago...
Well, going down.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
That's correct, going down. I conflated the name. So there was a Netflix documentary about Bill Ackman and Pershing Square. And is it Pershing Square Ventures or Pershing Square whatever it is?
Capital Management.
Pershing Square
Capital Management.
Now, he's made silly amounts of money doing this entire business. And the reason it's a story is he is now saying that Pershing Square will no longer focus on activist short selling and will focus on quieter long-term investing. Now, the reason I think this is pertinent in the current maelstrom of the market is because, for one thing, AMC and GameStop are back in the news because their stock is going back up. And my friends, I don't know how to live in this world anymore. Like, I don't know how to exist in a world where we have beat the joke to death. People have made money on this, but there's also people who are kind of bag holders who were kind of left out of the...
this is where Danny and I get off our perspectives. There are still more people that have lost money on those meme stocks than gained money.
Yes.
Okay?
Agreed.
There are definitely more losers than winners.
Yes. Probably true.
In this next, there'll be more losers than winners. Here's what you got. You got a guy that has gained the system. This has always been the thing about stocks, right?
I don't think he gained the system.
There are people that make money, a lot of it. Yeah. Okay? No, look, betting against a market, a company, right? Yes. There are definitely people out there that know way more about the stock market than I do that think shorting stocks should be illegal as a practice because how it's done, right? Because how it's done. How the process of shorting a stock goes about.
Listen, I have always said this much, and I repeat this frequently. I am not an investor. I will never be an investor. I'm a gambler. I love to gamble. Right. And I'm not a casino gambler, not like in that sense. I mean, I've gone before, but I love gambling on business. And like, like a true degenerate gambler, I enjoy the winning. And there's a part of the anxiety of going down that I'm like, yeah, there's something about it. Like, hey, I'm going to fail that I really like enjoy, or I shouldn't say enjoy, but it gets me high for some reason. Okay. Cause I'm a
true gambler, degenerate gambler, right? Yeah.
Like the losing and the winning also, like there's feelings that go along with both. So, I don't think any of this should be illegal. I think the simple warning that my father gave to me when I started, and uncles gave to me when I invested. And, I had a friend recently who I was texting him, like we were just talking about some stocks he was investing in. And he's like, hey buddy, I've seen 50% appreciation in these three stocks blended. So just know before you invest, like I think it's going to correct and then it's going to go back up. But before you buy, just know that. And I texted him back, money's not real, so it can't hurt me. And then I proceeded to lose like 60% my portfolio because I bet the whole thing on uranium at the wrong time. Now it's recovered, but the point is, like I was telling this to my uncle,
and if you held, that's why it's individual. Because if you held on to it, great, because it's recovered. If you didn't, like some people, and they sell at that 60% cut because they're trying to protect what they have left, then the correction didn't help them, right?
And this is why I am a degenerate gambler, because I lost 60% and didn't get up from the table. I actually said, I'm going to go pull more money out and bet more. So I've better than recovered. But what I'm getting at here is, if you investing because of stuff like we have low interest rates in this country there's a lot of speculation as to why we have low interest rates. But before my awareness of any of this, before when I was a kid, you could go stick your money in the bank and get what 8% from the bank.
Yeah, it was quite a bit back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
In the 80s.
in the
So
80s. Yeah.
because
So
interest rates for like houses and stuff like that were 20%, right?
correct. So here's the reality is if you could go stick your money in the bank and get 8, 10, 12%,
You
most
wouldn't buy any
investors,
stock.
nobody would. So so in my view, that is that has contributed to this belief that this like we have to invest in the stock market to find appreciation. When people are forced into a situation where they have to invest in the stock market for appreciation, they want guardrails up because they want the bumpers up because we're bowling, but we're bowling with our life savings, right?
Right.
When I think that investing should be the casino. And if you walk in and you say, "This is my mortgage," everyone goes, "You're an idiot. Leave. Get back in your car and go home." Right?
I,
So
there's a part of
because
me
we
that
have
agrees with you because I don't like a lot of rules. But again, when you start talking about we look, things are simple until they're not. You're right.
right,
In a simple world, you should be able to hang a sign outside that says, "Look, you're entering the stock market. Gamble at your own risk," right? The
correct,
problem, though, is when you intertwine what the stock market is. The biggest companies in the world, even
right,
the government has pieces of companies and makes money.
correct,
You know, there are government entities that own corporations that own big pieces of companies. You know what I mean? Like when you start intertwining things like government, big business, and then your little people, which they don't care about at all, you're
of course not,
intertwining that money. You have to have rules, and
right,
shorting a stock is one of the age-old scam thing. Because here's why: you and I have talked over and over and over on this podcast about stocks are just as much, if not more, emotionally based as they
right,
are anything else, right? The finances and all that kind of stuff. And like the movie, you and I used to do movie reviews for my truck or
right,
whatever. And one of the movie
yeah,
reviews you and I did was a movie called that I was pleasantly surprised because I thought it was going to be garbage, The Accountant, right? With Ben
yes,
Affleck. You and I
fantastic
think, both
film,
went in and thought this is going to be a horrible movie, and it was fantastic. But
yes,
one of the scenes in that movie has actually Ben Affleck's brother in the movie get into a car with what is obviously a stock guy, right? Or
right,
whatever. And he's like, you shorted X number of company stock and cost 50,000 people their jobs because that same day, that afternoon, some bad news came out about that company, right? And the stock tanked. Well,
right,
you made tens of millions of dollars off of these people suffering, right? And
right.
he's like, you're going to fix it, and you've got like 3 days to fix it or whatever, and give them their money back and yada yada. The point is it's been scammy behavior because all I've got to do for decades now is short your stock and then leak some information, and then what happens to the stock? I know what's gonna. It's as close to insider trading as we have without
Well,
it being illegal insider trading.
so we've talked about a company here a lot, which is probably 2 or 3 times, Hindenburg Research, which I love that freaking
Mm-hmm.
name because it's, and what Hindenburg Research does and what Pershing Square does, a lot of these activist funds do, is they buy up, they use rat holes. I mean, like if you saw Wolf of Wall Street, they
Mm-hmm.
use it's none of this is illegal. It's perfectly legal. They use separate funds, different companies, and they go to different brokerages and they buy up short positions, and then
Mm-hmm.
they drop a white paper which says, "Hey, here's why we've taken this." So I don't know that it's like as much as you think it's scammy. I understand why you think that, but I disagree in the sense that I don't think it's scammy because they're going to come out and tell you because the only way for them to make money on their short position is to publicly announce we have a short position. And guess what? If Bill Ackman or I forget the other guy's
You're
name.
saying it's okay because you add a disclaimer to it. If I'm going to rob you, it's not going to. I shouldn't be able to get away with it because I walk up and say, "Hey, I'm here to rob you now." Like
Well,
that.
here's the thing.
Disclaimers don't just
Well,
disqualify
if
everything.
if we go from the based on the last story, if we just say I'm going to rob you, but don't worry, I'm from the government, it's
Okay,
okay.
I taxes are not robbery. Look,
It's that.
this
But
guy, the
so
Ackerman guy. Go ahead, finish your
no,
thought
what
there.
I was going to say though is The only way he makes money is if he publicly comes out and tells you, here's why we've taken a short position, and sometimes that's enough. If you find out Carl Icahn and Bill Ackman, who used to be friends but were on the opposite sides of his biggest trade that made him popular was Herbalife. Herbalife is now if you want to talk about scam, I don't know, but I'm just saying the reputation Herbalife has is that it's less than legitimate because it's a pyramid scheme. Now here's the thing. I've been involved in network marketing. I've
Hey,
learned a
it
ton
still
from.
exists and is a publicly traded company. So go
So
ahead.
I'll just say this much: I've been in the network marketing industry. I'm no longer in the business. I like to say I'm a decade sober from the industry, but it's one of those things where I'm an ardent capitalist. I believe in pure free markets, but I understand. Like I don't want to engage in something where I can potentially make somebody feel bad, or I can put somebody in a position where they've lost money on something they don't understand. Now, that's why I'm saying a lot of stuff in life, a lot of stuff in the market needs to be treated like a casino because that's what it is. And this podcast we have done now for 60 some weeks. And if there's one thing, and this is something the big man used to say irritated him that I would say, which is value is subjective. And the reality is
It
that
shouldn't
is
be, but yes.
well, no, it's just like here's the thing. We have the one thing I have learned after doing this podcast 60 some weeks is that there is no accounting for people's perceived value of a thing, right? Someone says, "Hey, there's an EV stock." They've never sold a vehicle to anyone. They've never made a vehicle before. This company's completely brand new. Oh, and by the way, Trevor Milton's brother used to do drywall. Nothing wrong with doing drywall, but he knows nothing about hydrogen propulsion. And the stock is worth billions of dollars.
Right? Yeah.
So, because it's the perception and it's subjective. And I didn't lose any money, so I don't feel bad. But some ding dong somewhere probably took a HELOC against his home because he had so much equity in his house that he tapped that equity, bet the whole thing on a stock, on some EV stock. And there's probably out of the entire known universe, there's probably 150 people who did that. Right? It's a small number.
Yeah.
But of those 150 people, only one person still has their house, right? The other 149 lost their homes. But Pershing Square and other companies, they make so his big thing was he bet against Herbalife going to zero. That's the name.
Well, not
of
only
the
did he bet against Herbalife,
He
he
lost.
actively tried to destroy them. That's why he has a name. That's why there was a book written about it. I think there was a movie about it or whatever.
Yeah, the documentary is called Betting on Zero.
He not only said, "Hey, I'm betting for this stock to go to zero," but then turned around and actively tried to destroy the company, called it a pyramid scheme, and you know what I mean? So that there is some difference there between, hey, I'm going to short this stock and I'm going to have nothing to do with it, versus I'm going to short this stock and actively try to destroy it as a company, which he lost his you know what on because it's now a publicly traded company that is worth
it was publicly traded when he was betting on it to go to zero.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's
no, but what I'm saying is Bill Ackman had a name before that, and there's a reason why he's referred to as an activist investor, right? Because this is what activist investors do. But he's a so Carl Icahn and him I'm familiar with him. They're friendly. He's an activist investor, but he's always on the other position, which is I'm going to take a stock from $20. I'm going to find value in the business. I'm going to increase their bottom line, and I'm going to make the stock $60, and I'm going to exit my position. So he buys up enough of the stock that he's on the board and what have you. And Bill Ackman's on the other side saying, I'm going to come out with a white paper that says Herbalife is a scam. But it's interesting to me the timing of this because the market is at some of the highest we've seen in the last 8 years. We've never seen a market that's this rich. Is that a correct statement in your mind?
Well, no, you even look at it just according to this article. Obviously, he's just moved his money that he manages over into I would say, a more normal, forward-looking, right? Instead of taking shorts in companies, he's purchasing ownership in companies that he thinks are going up instead of
Right.
shorting companies. But if you look at the list, it's restaurants, it's
Yeah.
Lowe's, it's Hilton, right? He bought a huge stake and became top 20, I think it was top 20% of owners in Netflix, right?
Wow.
And stuff like that. So he's just become the other side of it, right?
Which is so. What I'm saying is, isn't that odd? Isn't this an odd time in the market? No one can time the market. No one knows if it's going up or down or sideways.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't this an odd time? Because if I'm him, I'm thinking of that movie, The Big Short, and going
And shorting.
everything, right? Because the guys who shorted the housing market seemed like idiots when they did it. But if I was him, if I'm him, I'm taking this as my swan song, right? The market
Mm-hmm.
is due for massive correction. That's just my opinion. I'm probably sitting on I'm probably, got a couple $1 billion under management. I'm sorry. I got to say, this is it. This is my last short position. I'm shorting the market left and right. And I'm gonna short it for a few $1 billion, and I'm going to walk away with 300 or 400 billion because it's going to be bad. There's going to be a bloodbath in the streets. And hey, guess what? When there's blood in the streets, it's time to make money, baby. That's what it is. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm not saying what you're saying is going to happen or not going to happen. What I am saying is, to me, what this feels like to me is a retirement move. I, like you, am a gambler, right? Now I'm an
Right.
investor, but I call it smart investing. I like to take intelligent gambles, not just throw my money at a wall and hope it sticks, but I like to take intelligent gambles. Now, and
Right.
it's worked out for me, knock on wood, right? It really
Yeah.
has. But the point, though, to me, this feels like a retirement move. There's are phases in your life that you can be aggressive and
Right.
change money and make money. And, oh, by the way, lose a lot of money. I was much more able and acceptable to extremely high risk before I had children.
Right.
After I had children, even financially, it just makes me a little bit more cautious. It's
Right.
easy to start over when you're young and single. It's a little
Right.
bit more difficult, but still easy to start over when you're young and with a significant other, right? But when
Right.
you're at any age and have children, it becomes much more difficult for you to start your life over when you have kids to feed and stuff like where to live and where they're going to go to school and yada yada. To
Right.
me, this feels like a solid retirement move.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of this crap that I've done for decades that has
Right.
made me a crap ton of money. I'm going to
Right.
invest it in things that I think are quote unquote reasonably safe, right? Yeah, except for I don't get the restaurants. Restaurants traditionally aren't
They're a crap
very safe.
investment.
Investing in Chipotle and Domino's and whatever. The point
Right.
is these are things that I can put in and I can forget it, and they're gonna eventually make me money here and there and that kind of stuff.
Right. So Bill Ackman in 2020 was worth an estimated $1.9 billion. Today he is worth an estimated $3.1 billion because he made a bunch of money in the last 2 years. God bless him for doing
Right,
that because
and
that's
he's
what.
like, I'm done.
Right.
I'm good. Let's get out of here.
One of my favorite quotes is from the movie The Departed, and it's a mob movie, and the Irish mob guy is going to collect money from a car mechanic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the car mechanic goes, "Hey man, what do you want me to do? I don't make any money." And he smacks him in the face and said, "This is America. If you don't make money, you're a douchebag." And that is something I believe to my core, which is, this is America. If you don't make money, you're a douchebag.
That's funny.
So I just like, it's fascinating to me that when you say it's a retirement move, I agree that it's probably a retirement move,
That's what it
but
feels like.
there's still a part of me that says this is a weird time to get out of this business of sorting when a normal person looks at the market. I know people right now who are selling their homes and going to rent for 2 years because they're like, they think they're gonna game the market and they're
That is
gonna.
a horrible idea. That
I'm
is
just saying,
the
I know
No,
people
I get
doing
it.
it.
I know people that are doing it too
Yeah.
because they think for some reason they got sold on this idea, and this goes back to what I was saying about companies and everything seems to be so emotional, right?
Right.
Is they think they're going to game the system, and very rarely does it work out. But
Right.
even the stock market, as you say, okay, well, it's ready for a big correction. Look, there are people again, highly qualified people out there that talk about stocks and trading and the environment as a whole. But there, and I read a lot about them because I like because they look at the stock market, investing market as a whole versus individually. Right?
Right.
Is the stock market due for a correction? What's driving that? You know what I mean? Yada yada. And there's been a lot of ways that our market, being the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ in particular,
Right.
has had opportunities in the last couple of years to correct that it survived what we call those breaking points,
Right.
right? And so a breaking point is typically that point where, okay, let's just say a stock is moving downward, that it falls off a cliff because it
Right.
surpassed certain check marks of investors,
Where
big
everyone's saying,
investors.
"Hey, I lost
Right.
60%." Yeah.
Right. So the stock market, in the same way as a whole, has those same very similar cliffs, right? Where if it passes a breaking point, and what we've seen is it get down to very close to those breaking points and then move back up, which is what you want. You want to up
Right.
and down bounce, trending upward. And so we've surpassed a lot of those potential breaking points. Now, whether that continues, who knows, right?
Right.
But every time we thought, here it is, it's here it is, right? It's
Yeah.
gonna fall.
Right. And listen, I'm over the mindset that says you can't time the market, but again, I'm a gambler, right? So you can't. Nobody can time the market, but you can bet on your gut,
Sure.
which in after my 34th birthday, which I had, whatever, I made a decision that whatever I do for the rest of my life, I'm betting on my gut, which is because I every time I didn't do that and I tried to be strategic and I did research and all this other
Mm,
garbage, I lost. And there's something psychologically damaging to me, anyways, that says you thought it was going to go the other direction, but for
you talked
the
yourself out of it.
whatever. Like when you're sitting at the blackjack table and you go, "There's been too many high cards, or there's been too many small cards. I'm sitting on 16. Dealer's showing 10. I'm going to let them, even though the strategy says you bet on, you
Yeah,
hit
you're
on
gonna piss off
16.
the rest of the table, but I get what you're saying.
Middle
You're
finger to
allowed
the
to
sky,
make that.
baby. Yeah, I'm not, it's my cards, it's my money. And that's always where because I didn't do that for so long. I've sat and calculated if I had made this bet here, if I bought Bitcoin
Don't
at a
ever start
thousand,
calculating missed opportunities because that will kill you. Like that will kill the
yeah,
brain.
yes. But I did it once and I called it punishment. I punished myself by looking at it and going, don't do this anymore. Bet on your gut. And here's the thing, I am so happy to have lost the massive amounts of money I've lost betting on my instinct rather than having lost money betting on what people
Against
think I should
yourself.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah, against yourself. That makes sense.
So, all right, let's
All
just.
right, what do we got next?
Well, the next thing we have to do is tell everyone we are sponsored by Big Man Gear. Big Man Gear is this guy's idea of a merchandise brand. It is printed and delivered by Amazon Prime. You can go to bigmangear.com. Big Man's always wanted a clothing brand, so this is his kind of foray into that.
Oh, I'm
So
gonna have a big one day. The big man's gonna have a big clothing
good
brand
for
one
you.
day.
Hey, man, there's that one company called Big Dog. I think it's called Big Dog.
Oh, it had its time for a while. That big dog was a
Yeah,
brand for big
you
guys
could.
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, I was watching one of the, and I send Big Man a lot of these videos of where other channels are explaining a business that either
Mm-hmm.
exists or went out of business. And we want to get into doing a lot of that stuff on our Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched that video and I thought, holy crap, this guy, I mean, they probably made $100 million before they went belly up. But the point is, they made $100 million,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The
Again,
top
getting,
upper echelon of those investors are still living off of that today, whether
yeah.
the company exists or not.
Yeah, and again, that gets back to my operative phrase in the last segment, which was, "This is America. If you don't make money, you're a douchebag." So, all right.
All right, what's next, Danny?